Hello everyone, I thought I would record a video for you guys and review how we're going to be modeling your bladed weapons. So I'm going to start and make a new project, opening up the project window. That gives me this, and I can go here, hit new, give my project a new name. I'm going to call this Axe Project. And give it yourself a location for this. I believe I will put it here. Go ahead and hit accept, and that will make a folder filled with all sorts of useful subfolders that Maya knows how to reach. Next, I'm going to take my reference image, put it into the source images folder. And now in Maya, I'm going to go to my orthographic view, switch this to the side view. And then I'm going to go up to here, is the fifth icon to the right, and hit image plane. And it will open up this window. I can select my reference photo. And now I have the reference in my viewport. In class, I tried to show off a tool called the Quad Draw tool, but I think I'm going to take a step back this time around and just show you how to model this without using Quad Draw. So I'm going to start by creating a cylinder up here in the poly modeling shelf. There we go. If you want to change how many sides this has when you create it, you can go to the attribute editor, click on polycylinder, and right here there are a couple different sliders for changing how many sides this has. You can add divisions right when you create it, like so. You can add subdivisions to the top. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to double check that my image plane is centered. It's not quite centered how I want it to be, so I'm going to slide it over just a little bit. There we go. Then we grab my cylinder, drag it down about there. I'm going to hide my outliner, give myself a little more room on this side. Modeling toolkit over here. All right, and now I wanted to see my image plane from behind the cylinder. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go up to this icon right here. It is the X-ray icon. I'm going to click that, and it lets me see through my objects. Next, I'm going to switch to my vertices mode. And I'm going to select all these vertices up here at the top. I'm going to shrink it down to about there. I'm going to grab these vertices, pull them up to about here, and there we go. Now what I can do from this point, I'm going to go to my faces mode, select all these faces, but I've made a mistake here. I've selected the faces behind as well. When you drag and select, it'll select everything all the way through the mesh. So what can I do to make sure to quickly get all the faces on the bottom without getting the ones on the side? Well, if I go to my side view and select from the bottom like this, I get the bottom and all these ones as well. But then I can go and holding Control and then doing a selection, it'll remove the sides that I don't want for my selection. And then from that point, I'm going to make an extrusion. You can do an extrusion by clicking this button here on the poly modeling shelf, or over here in the modeling toolkit. That's going to pop up a menu. You can change your thickness here. That'll bring it in or out. You can add an offset to taper it. Or you can just go straight away and press one of your transforms, WER, and you can scale it manually, move it down. But it's kind of a lot to keep pressing extrude every time I want to make an extrusion, right? So there is another way. If you hold shift and then drag out, it'll make an extrusion automatically. So that is a lot faster than continuing to hit extrude over and over. You can just keep going and model out the entire handle. I'm not going to worry about these leather straps that I've wrapped around it. I'm going to go ahead and handle that in the texturing phase, because that's just a bit too detailed, or at least more detailed than I want to do in this demonstration. All right. I'm pretty happy with how that looks. Now, you may notice that your mesh has a lot of flat faces and a lot of smooth faces. What's the deal here? Why is it just making some of them hard and some of them smooth? The answer to that is the normal solid polygons. The same thing that determines which direction the polygon is facing, whether it's facing inwards or outwards, also has to do with the smoothness between polygons. So we want to go ahead and still make these smoothed out. So the way to do that is to go to your edges mode. Go ahead and select the edges you want to make smooth, and then hold shift, and then hold right click to open a contextual menu for edge mode, and then go to soften and harden edges and click soft edge. And if you go back to your object mode and deselect it, you can see your whole mesh is now smooth. Now, would you look at that? I've made a mistake, actually. I made an extrusion here, and then I forgot to delete that extrusion. So I wasn't paying attention, and there is now geometry, like overlapping geometry, where I didn't expect it to be. If I move my vertex up here, I can see there's a whole other line here. This is a pretty easy fix. All I really have to do is double click to select the whole edge loop here, and then see which way it's going, and then hold shift and go and right click, and then go to delete edge. And now that part is cleaned up. So I'm going to continue modeling out my handle. Going to go down here, select up there, select or deselect there, and hit E for scale. I'm going to hold shift, and I'm going to extrude out this way. Remember, the shortcut to extrude is to hold shift and then drag out or scale it. And then I'm going to leave that like that for now. We'll come back to the bottom, but I'm going to go back up to the top now. So I've designed this part of the hilt to be a different shape. So I'm going to make another cylinder. Go to my attributes. And then drag this down to 6 divisions. Rotate it 90 degrees. And I'm going to drag it down here, about there. This time I'm going to give myself an extra line here. Whoops. The multi-cut tool, that's up here in your poly modeling shelf, or over here in your modeling toolkit. Then go over here, hold Control to give myself a whole loop, and then click to place it. And then I'm going to double click on my edge loop and scale it out. I'm going to click on this edge loop and scale it back in a little bit. And grab this one. Whoops, I missed a vertex here. So I'm going to go to faces. Select all my faces this way. Go down here. Scale inward. And there. Now, I'm looking at this and it looks like in the art I've drawn 8 sides to this, and on the actual model I've given it 6 sides. So let's say I wanted to change that. Well, I could go over here and try and increase the number of sides in my attribute editor. But the problem is I've made changes to my model now. So Maya doesn't really know how to give it more sides like I want it to. So when you make a new shape and you make edits to it from the attribute editor, you have to make those before you make any changes to it. So I think I'm happy with the 6 sides anyway. If I wasn't, I could just make a new cylinder, make one with 8 sides and all that, but I think I'm happy with this. So I've got these 2 objects here, and I want to merge them together into the same object. So what I think I'm going to do for that is I'm going to go here, select all my faces up top, and then hit delete to delete those faces. If I go to my X-ray, wow, I can't quite see that they're gone yet. And then I'm going to go up here, select all those faces, remove those, and delete. So I've got 2 holes here. Then we go to object mode. I'm going to select the top and the bottom halves. I'm going to hit combine, which is up here in the modeling toolkit, right in the middle. Now they are the same object, and you can see here the outliner, they're just one object. However, it did leave behind these 2 groups that have essentially the history of the original 2 items or objects we had in the scene. So it's good practice when you do something like that to go up here and do delete by type history. And that just deletes your history. You can still undo, but it's good to just kind of clear up your history so that your models are clean and don't have a bunch of extra data attached and aren't tied to these groups that just have transform data on them. So I've run into a bit of a problem here. I've got 6 sides up top and 20 on the bottom, and I want to connect them right here in this tiny space. So So I'm going to need to get a little bit clever about how I bridge the gap here. I also want to add some bevels to the edges here, because currently when I hit smooth preview, it smooths out like that, and I don't want that. So let's start with just adding more geometry here by adding a bevel. Make sure that the top isn't selected, but I get these. Okay, and that's good enough for now. Now I have all my edges I selected. I want to bevel. I'm going to go up to here and hit bevel. It gives you this little menu where I can increase the width. It's a bit much. I think I'm going to manually enter 0.05. That looks pretty good. Then I'm going to turn off the chamfer, so it maintains that edge in the middle. And if I hit smooth, it stays smooth. Or it stays sharp, excuse me. And then I'm going to go down here, hold shift, drag scale inwards to extrude. So that's looking a little better as far as the number of faces. They're a little bit close. So that's looking a little bit better. The number of edges match up a little bit closer, but still not quite where I want it. I would really love to connect them right here. So I'm going to go ahead and use my multi-cut tool. And holding shift, I'm going to select the middle of this edge and then go up to here. And notice how I jumped several faces with the multi-cut. You don't have to go through each face individually because that would take forever. Instead, you can just jump through and make a cut. Or I could simply hold Control and Shift together. Control lets me do a whole edge loop. Shift lets me snap to the middle, or aid by increments of 10%. I'm just going to go around and give it more edges. By the way, if I want to get an edge loop of vertices, if I just double click a vertice, it doesn't know which direction to go, so it just selects all of them. But what you can do is select one, and then while holding shift, double click the next one in the line you want to select. And that selects the loop of vertices for you. So I'm going to do that up here. And then I'm going to go ahead and go up to here. The third magnet in the line here is snap to points. And that lets you drag up, and whatever vertice while you're dragging, or whatever vertice your mouse is closest to, whatever you're dragging will snap to that. So now I know that these are completely even. So as I'm going, I'm realizing that I just don't think that the numbers are really lining up the way I want them to. None of this is really even the way I want it to be. So sometimes you just need to call it quits on a piece of geometry. And I'm going to go ahead and just delete the whole handle that I made here. I'm going to go to face and double click it, hit delete. It might have been a lot of work, but it'll be pretty quick to make another one. And this time I'm going to make sure that the new cylinder I create has a number divisible by 6, such as 24. Don't forget to turn off your snap to points. And I'm going to just do this really quickly. All right, so I've remade my handle, and now it should be far easier to connect the two of these. So I'm going to go back up here to combine, make them the same layer or the same object. Delete my type history. Go over here. Extrude that out a bit. So we can get it close to that. And now I can go ahead and merge the two. The simplest way to do that would be to select edges on each side and go up to here and select bridge. And it'll bridge the gap between the two. And go ahead and keep doing that. If you can repeat a function in Maya by hitting the G key, and that'll save you a lot of time. There, and now both parts are connected, and I'm pretty happy with the results. Make sure to add extra editor there and there to maintain that hardness on the edge. And there we go. From there, I'm going to go ahead and create another cylinder. Make sure it has 24 sides again. Go to faces. Delete the faces on the bottom. And then just drag the edges up. Let's go to snap to points. Make sure it's even at the top there. I'm going to go on to here, delete these faces, just so I remember to do that. Making sure to turn off my snap to points. I'm going to scale these down now to match up with my design. Bounce there is good. I think I'm going to delete these faces on the top as well. And scale to about there. I can always add more geometry later. Scale that way, especially if I want to make sure they're all even. Another way I can add edge loops is with the Insert Edge Loop tool. That is up here in Mesh Tools, Insert Edge Loop. I have that added to my shelf, so I use it pretty often. If you want to add a button to your shelf, you hold Control-Shift and then click, and it adds it to your shelf at the end. I'm going to go over to here and then go to the tool settings for that. If you don't have the tool settings window, you can always go to Windows, General Editors, Tool Settings, open that up. And I like to keep that docked right over here. Nope. Keep it docked right over here. And then I'm going to go over here, keep my, say, insert 12 edge loops, and then I can click. And that's pretty good. Then I'm going to scale them, but make sure I'm scaling on just the horizontal axes. So I'm going to click on the square there, and then middle mouse drag. Okay, that's pretty good. That's one way I can scale them all. But what if I want to scale them together in a different way? Well, I can use the soft selection function in Maya. To use soft selection, go ahead and hit B. And all of a sudden, all your edges will turn this shade of yellow to orange to red. And what that does is moves things around softly in relation to what you have selected. To change the size of this, hold B and then drag with your mouse until it gets to about where you want it to be. You can see the blue edges are the ones that will not be affected by soft select. And then I can go here, middle mouse to that, and then I can smoothly change the shape of this. Can go there again, softer. Now it looks like I'm gonna have to go through individually and adjust these, but it was good to have a starting point at least. That. And turn off soft select by tapping B again. And there, that looks pretty good. Moving up to the top. Going to extrude out. Well, it's about there. Extrude again. And then I'm going to go back to my insert edge loop tool. Say maybe 6 edges. That looks about right. I'm going to go here, extrude in. And then let's go to the top right there. This is where my design is maybe not as clear as I should have made it. But that's okay. You can always improv a little bit. Bring that in really close. Go back to my insert edge loop button. I think I'll undo that. Give it 8 edges. Whoops. Don't forget to hit Q to exit out of your tool and go to the selection mode. Sometimes it will make changes you didn't anticipate if you don't exit out of your tool. All right, I'm just kind of eyeballing, and I can't see where I didn't really design where this would land in the middle here. I maybe would have benefited from drawing that out as well underneath these parts that are holding this place in place. But that's okay. It's my design, and I can do a little bit ad-libbing, so to speak. And at the very top, let's go and extrude one more time. And then going to hold shift, hold right click, and then we're going to go to merge edges to center. So that did give us a bunch of triangles, but that's okay because I can just go through here like this, select every other edge, and then hit my delete key. Great, and then I can select these, deselect those, drag that down a bit. I'm going to go back in here, double click, there. Double click. I'm going to go to bevel. Same thing as before. Bring it out, turn off chamfering. Now we've got a nice hard edge. Okay, so now I want to start on my blade, and I think I will create another piece of geometry for that. So I'm going to go up here, create a square, drag that up, and let's just start by grabbing the vertices, lining that about there, lining this up about here. So I think I want to get this perfectly lined up with the hilt. So I'm going to go over here and turn on my wireframe on shaded mode. That's right here in the viewport. Then I'm going to go back up here to my snap to points button, turn that on, snap it to this, this vertex, and right there. Now it's perfectly aligned. Turn off snap to points, turn off wireframe, and then I'm going to drag this side down as well. I don't think I'll be as specific for that. We'll just handle that later. Maybe drag this here. And before we go any further, I think I don't want to be working on both sides of this at once. So I'm going to go ahead and make a cut right down the middle. And then I'm going to go ahead and delete this half. I'll delete this part too. And now I'm working with just one side of the blade for now. And then I think I'm just going to... I think I will grab this edge. Actually, I'm not happy with it there. I'm going to drag it out to about here. The goal with this is I want to keep my geometry as even as possible. So then I think I want to try to get my geometry to line up with the hilt as much as possible. So I'm going to turn on the wireframe mode here. Then holding Control, I'm going to slide down, just add cuts so that they line up with the geometry on my hilt. Then I'm going to grab these, just pull them in. There. That's looking pretty even. I would like it to be a bit smoother up here. There. I'm pretty happy with that. I'll then go ahead and extrude this. Grab this edge. Pull it in like that. And we're just going to keep going. Notice that it is creating faces on the backside here. So how about I just go ahead and delete those, delete this for now. We can just extrude edges so I don't end up with a bunch of faces I need to delete later. Drag that in, like so. just keep going. Maybe I'll go down the rest of the way. Get my insert edge loop tool again. Get 8 more. Just kind of finish it off. And let's go ahead and bridge these two. Great, so now I've got my basic shape. Now, what I could do is start adding in edge loops this way, but I do run into a bit of a problem in that they're all going to cluster right at the bottom here, and I don't want to clean those up later. So instead, I think I'm just going to start doing some of these multi-cuts manually. So I can just start clicking away like this. What I'm trying to do is set up the edge where my blade will taper in. And there we go. Hit enter. Now I'm going to do the beveled area of my axe. Now I've run into a bit of a problem here. There is not a line on the point where I want to add a vertex, but that's okay for now. I'm going to go ahead and add the vertex there anyway. Go up here, add another vertex at a middle point. This is okay. Third one. Fourth one. And just to clean it up, and then add a point there. Hit enter. And now I've got a nasty end gone. Horrible end gone. How do we fix this? Well, the easiest way would be to simply add a multi-cut here. And cut here. There even. And then simply cut down to here. And then if I want to slide down this edge without changing the shape of the geometry too much, I can go up here to Mesh Tools and select Slide Edge. And then with my middle mouse button, I can just drag that down. There, and that's a lot better. Do the same up here. And that's much more even. I did leave another end gun up here, so I'm going to go ahead and finish that one off. And there's a couple more up here too. It can be easy to forget where you've left problems until you see them later. I think I'll then drag this down. Move these vertices around a little bit. Still trying to kind of keep it even. I want a straight edge here, so I'm going to scale these together. Drag this like that. Same thing along here. Scale them together. There's another one of my n-gons. Go ahead and solve this. Creating more geometry over here. And more geometry over here. That works out for this side because this was looking a little bit blocky. So I've got another n-gon here, but I'd rather not add geometry to this because right now I've got it pretty lined up with the hilts geometry. So I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make a multi-cut from here to here. No, here to here. And it does give me a triangle here. That's okay. We can work around that. I'm going to add a vertex there, and a vertex there. And look at that. We've got quads now, all across the board. Because this has 4 sides, this has 4 sides, this has 4 sides, and this has 4 sides. Sometimes you don't need to make that much geometry to fix a problem. And this is just kind of the problem solving that you will get used to over time as you model more. Geometry is looking kind of tight down there, so I'm going to slide things up more. It doesn't need to be perfect, but it's good to have relatively even geometry wherever you can. And this will probably take you a while, but that's okay. That's just kind of the grind. I'm going to get rid of this triangle by making it a quad. Go down the center, like so. And now, would you look at that? I've made a triangle. So I'm going to go over here, hold Shift, right click, merge vertices to center. So from there, I'm going to go ahead and go to my target weld, merge to target. Oh, I had one selected here. Don't forget to get rid of your unwanted selections. And I'm just going to start merging these vertices into the taper I want. These last vertices, I'm going to smooth them out a little bit like that. There. I'm going to go along this edge, double clicking to select the whole edge loop. Go to harden edge. Just keep smoothing. Another way to smooth out a lot of vertices at once is you can hold Shift, right click, and go to average vertices. Right, just keep hitting G. They will slowly smooth it out. It's very incremental. You can see that one really wants to move though. Also, another way you can slide vertices is by holding Shift and Control together and then just sliding them down. Alright, that's looking pretty even. So now I'm going to go into my faces. I'm taking advantage of Shift double click to select a whole bunch at once. And I'm going to extrude in. There we go. I'm going to go ahead and delete these faces here. I'm going to select the edges I'm going to bevel. Hit bevel edge. You can also use the multi-cut tool to bevel edges if the bevel tool isn't really working for you. Sometimes it can be a little particular about what surfaces it wants to work on. See that cut I made down there had an unintended effect. It went this way rather than down here. So I'm going to go ahead and select this vertex or this edge. And double click this one. Select all the edges up to that point. I'm going to delete edge. Notice that I shift right click delete edge rather than just hitting the delete key. Because if I just hit the delete key, it'll leave all these vertices. So instead, delete edge, and it cleans up the unnecessary vertices as well. Now I'm going to bevel out the indent, the bevel on the inside. All these. Use a double click. Grab the corners. Hopefully this will just work. Go to shift right click, bevel. And I'm in luck. Go ahead and turn on chamfer. And voila. Now notice it's given me all of these extra vertices. So while it may be really nice to do beveling like that, it does give you a mess you need to clean up. And this is okay. This is, once again, it's just part of the problem solving of Maya. So what I think I will do here, so I'll make triangles there, and then add some geometry there. And now it's all quads again. Here, I think I will think I'll simply go to the bottom here. I think I want more geometry here anyway. So I get to this point. And notice that solves my problem here as well. I'll do that again for this side. That worked out pretty well. There we go. This one, I think I'm going to go up to here. Geometry that way. And here, go there, there. Don't forget to save your scene often. I haven't been doing that enough, so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Call it Axe Scene. It's pretty common practice in productions where multiple people may be working on the same scene to add your initials to the work that you've done. So I'm going to add TF. And then I'm going to do .0001 to indicate the version number. And then I'm going to end it with MA for my ASCII. If you recall, my ASCII is for files that are written in the ASCII language. The other option is my binary, but I think we're going to stick with ASCII. And hit save as. And remember, you can easily save your scenes once you've done that once by going to increment and save. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with where this is at right now, but I want to double check to make sure there are no n-gons. For the sake of just making sure this works, though, I'm going to go ahead and make a temporary n-gon right here. So to look for n-gons or triangles or anything like that in your geometry, you can go up to Select and go to Use Constraints. From here, you have options to look for quads and triangles and such. Just go ahead and select. I'm going to start with quads. Select all and next, and it selects all of my quads. And it looks like it's doing pretty good, but we have a couple issues down here. If I go to n-gons, sure enough, I've got a couple of n-gons right here. If I look closer, I can see I've got several vertices here that are not merged like I thought they were. So I'm going to go ahead and select those and merge vertices to center. And then, of course, there's my n-gon there. Delete that one. Or delete that vertice. Check triangles. I do have some triangles down here. So I'm going to go ahead and fix those. I think I will simply add those. Edge mode. And I will, whoops, I will slide those down to here. And I can go to faces. And those are no longer triangles. If you hit F, it'll zoom in on any selection. It looks like I do have another triangle here, which is odd. So it looks like I just have a line here. I'm going to go to vertices. Move that around. Ah, and there it is. These vertices are also not the same vertices. I'm going to select them both and select merge vertices. Double check. There's 2 there as well. So merge those vertices. Smooth preview one more time and look for any other oddities. It looks like I got them all now. Go back to face mode, go back to my constraints, quads, n-gons. Oh, we found another one right here. I'm not entirely sure how that one happened, but this one should be relatively easy. Well, that one is a bit odd, isn't it? What I think I could do is I'm going to use my multi-cut and just kind of figure it out like that. Go to vertex mode. Turn on my snapped point. Turn it off and just kind of move to the middle there. No, turn it back on actually. Line it up there. And then let's smooth these out. Soften the edge. No, actually. Try hardening these edges. Ah, there we go. You never really know what's going to happen sometimes. So it's always good to double check your whole mesh using selection constraints. Go back to face. All right, looks like there's no more end sides and no more triangles. Perfect. So I think I can go ahead and combine these two. I'm going to go ahead and make this a bit thinner, like so. A little more. I'm going to try and get it to match up mostly to there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mirror it. And thankfully this appeared on the right axis, but you can always switch it to the Y or to the Z axis. But I want is the X axis. Hit enter, or just click out of it. That confirms it. Now, see, it did run into an issue here where it decided to close my hole on the back end. So I'm going to go to undo my mirror and try it again. This time, see, I have a merge threshold. Basically, with the merge threshold on, it will look for vertices that are close enough to each other within the threshold and snap them together. So I'm going to turn down the threshold, and bam. Like that, it selects my hole the way I want it, while merging everything else the way it should be. Oh, would you look at that? It has also mirrored both ways. It didn't intend for that, so undid it. I'm going to undo merge one more time. Turn down the threshold one more time. It's good to still have a threshold though, just to make sure that these vertices that are on top of each other are still merging correctly. So I've got another mirror I didn't intend for. And I can't select the faces. That's because in select, I forgot to turn off my selection constraints. So I'm going to go back here and hit nothing. And I can select and delete that geometry. So now I've got both sides of my axe mirrored, but I forgot I want to make one more change up here. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to go up here and go to symmetry, and let's do object X. Now when working with symmetry, if your selections are blue, that is where Maya recognizes that your mesh is symmetrical and will make changes on both sides. So now I can go in here and build out my bevel on both sides. And go ahead and do the top and the bottom myself. I know I'm making a triangle there, but I'll fix that in a moment. And control. Now I've got a nice bevel down the whole thing. Connect these two. I really shouldn't be saying beveling, because this isn't technically a bevel, even though it's the result you can get from the bevel tool. The real term for this would be fencing. I am fencing my mesh to make sure I am getting really hard edges when I smooth it out. So if you hear me say bevel a lot when I'm talking about, these corners, that's what I mean to say. And then for this last triangle, I think I will simply delete the edge there. It gives me the same result. There we go. If I want to add a little notch here, I can. I go into my multi-cut here. So these faces. Down a bit. All right, so I've got my hole here, or my notch here. And then I think I will extrude inward. And no, I will turn off my symmetry, and then I will extrude inward. Like so. I'll use my edge tool, bridge that gap, bridge this gap, double click there, fill hole, click there, fill hole. Remember, you can open these contextual menus by holding Shift and right click. And now it's a little notch. I can then go and even further, make a really tight fence here. Let me turn on my symmetry again. And then I've got these end guns again, but I think I'll simply run them through the notch like this. And then I'll turn off my symmetry. Like this. This. And I think I'm actually, because I want to maintain this line as much as possible through the whole thing, I'm going to go ahead and make an edge down the center and then delete those edges. That's looking pretty good. You can select these. This view, push it in further. I could also go up to my edge snapping, snap it straight to the edges I want. Those are pretty close, so I think I will simply scale them. Ah, see, I made a mistake here. Ah, so I can only... And then I'm going to go in here and clean up the inside, like so. So an extra vertice there. I spotted that there. Be careful when using the snapping, because you might think you can move them on 2 axes, but it will snap on all 3 of them if you do it that way. So you have to do it one at a time. And there we go. Now my axe has a little notch in the side. I'm going to go ahead and leave the other side of the axe out of the tutorial for now. I think you guys can figure out how to do that side based on how I did this. But I will connect these together. So I'm going to combine. go ahead and get rid of faces on the inside to save time. Turn on the symmetry again. Alright, I'll add an extra loop here. And move this up to match it here. And go ahead and raise these up. Okay, I'm going to make some adjustments on these. I'm going to go inside the mesh. Easier to work in there like this. You could also turn on the X-ray mode and work that way. I'm not welding them yet. I'm just moving them into place. And this one, well, it doesn't have a match yet, so I'm going to have to make it right now. Over here. And cut to the center there. And I'm going to delete this edge to maintain the quad here. And then I think for this vertice, I'll go ahead and target weld. And I think we can move these over just a little bit. Drag those in. Because I don't like how long these polygons are, I'm going to go ahead and use the multi-cut. Pull those in. Cut down like this. Grab this edge and delete it. Well, no, I need that edge there. But I won't need it here. Then I'll target weld. So now I'm just going to go through, select each one of these, match priorities to center, and hit G to repeat that operation. Whoops, grabbed too many. And there we go. We should be good, and that should be fully connected. Grabbing all these edges and sliding them in. From this point on, it's pretty much just cleanup, so we're going to speed right through this and get to the end. Great, and that's how you make your bladed weapon. There's some parts of this that are incomplete, but I think that should be enough to get you guys going. and on the road to completing your own weapon. So, thanks for checking in, and I'll see you guys on Friday. Have a good one. Great, and that's how you make your bladed weapon. There's some details that I left out, of course, but I think that should be enough to get you guys on the road to completing your weapons. So, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.